Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, get ready for the Red Koi Throwdown. I am here with Tyler Wetland, the creator and artist of Red Koi. And we're just going to talk about things.
Let's just talk.
Let's just talk.
Just want to talk, you know?
We never talk anymore.
We don't. It's all business.
I put my suit and tie every day on, and all business.
Right.
So so let's go all the way back to the beginning, man.
The way back.
When did Red Koi enter your mind? When was the seed planted?
So Red Koi was my first long form comics project after a whole series of shorter projects that had been published through the Alterna anthologies, which I had done after creating like 59 pages of a graphic novel that had I had no story. I had no consistent art. All my fundamentals were off. That was really the thing that was sort of my sobering moment. It was like, oh, I need to actually learn how to draw. I need to draw to a point where I'm not embarrassed to have my work on the shelves with, other professionals. So the short stories were how I did that. Just kind of focused on learning how to tell a story, learning how to draw different people, different places, cars and animals and things. And after doing that for a while, which was fun, I love the short story format. I wanted to do something longer, but I still didn't think that I was in the right place for pitching to Alterna for a long form book. I wanted to show Peter at some point, but my first thought was, I'm going to try and crowdfund something first. So it was originally going to be a Kickstarter. So I did the book, and I think while I was working on it, or maybe I just finished it, and I was just posting it on Tumblr, I think, with my own terrible lettering. Thank God Wes, came into the picture. But Peter saw it one day when we were at a comic event together at our local shop. And he was just like, "What's this?" I was like, "Oh, it's a book I've been working on." He's like, "Well, send it to me. I want to take a look at it." So it was like, you don't have to tell me twice. So, I sent it to him. And at that time, I think that was like 2017, 2018. The submission process, it was a long process because Alterna was, A, growing like crazy, B, getting a ton of attention, both, good and undeservedly bad at the time. And Peter was just weathering that. So it was just so many things were happening. But, he was constantly like, just stay on me, reach out. I want to let you know when I can. And I remember it had been a long day in November, I think it was 2017. And I came home, we had been out that day. And it was like a cold day in New England. And I just sent him a message. I was like, hey, I just want to know what you want to do with this. I don't want, please let me know if this is not going to work out. And, but if not, I'll try and crowdfund or something. And, and he gave me the thumbs up. He was like, dude, I want to do it. I think we need to get some color on it. He's going to be in a place where he could, actually talk more about it. But, so Pete was obviously great about kind of keeping it going. And then we knew it was going to happen. So, then that happened, and we were talking about it as black and white, or a black and gray comic, because that's all I had done. My first published work for Alterna was the High Hills of Nemea, a short story about Hercules' first trial against the Nemean lion, and I did that in black and white. But Pete was the one. I never submitted anything before. I sent that story into the anthology, and Pete said, "This is great, but you should, try to add some gray tones. I think it'll really make it pop." And I was like, "I might ruin it." He's like, "No, you'll be fine." It's like, "All right, I don't know you, but I like your attitude." So I did, and he was so happy with them. He was like, "You got to get a professional letterer, though." I was like, "Good call, good call." And so, I had done that, and that started me doing the gray wash. and that's just what I've taken ever since, doing the Grey Oceans. I didn't do it for the Swan King just because I really wanted that to be a straight black and white book. And I had been reading a lot of Sean Murphy stuff at the time and really kind of thinking about all the ways you can use line to create gray space. And so I really wanted that to be an experiment there. But he's like, this look, really great in color. Color obviously sells better. And so he's like, are you okay with that? Meaning like, am I willing to pay for that? And I was like, yeah, that's how it's going to work. I want the book to do well. So, we put out the tweet and this freaking guy responded,
It's so weird.
You came along. What was that for you? I mean, because you saw the tweet. How did you even how did you even find the tweet? Who were you following? Were you following Peter?
I was following Alterna Comics.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think if that was the first time that I had saw your work or not. I can't really remember.
Mm-hmm.
I just remember
we had never interacted before that.
No. And I hadn't interacted with Pete or Alterna Comics. I pretty much had no idea who they were. Mm-hmm. I mean, it wasn't until after I threw my hat in the ring to color Red Koi that I even started to figure out who Alterna Comics was and that they... I mean, not that there was a commitment that Alterna was going to publish it. At least not that you communicated to me initially.
Yeah.
I don't think. I don't remember. But yeah, like I mean, I don't think I had been following Alterna that long or knew much about them. I followed the links and saw the book, and I don't know, I just really loved it. I really loved what you were doing in contrast to what was out there and even what's out there right now. Like, I was just like, this is something. Like, this is a thing that I just thought it was cool. And so yeah,
well,
obviously
you had such confidence in your response, in that first message. You're like, first, is this a paying gig? Which great question. That's important. Don't work for free. And then once you had that, it just okay, because I know how this is supposed to look and I don't want someone to ruin it. And I was like, this guy, I like this guy, and then the pages that you sent back were
see, I don't even know, like, I on one hand, I feel like that's totally true. And on another hand, I don't feel like I don't feel like I was substantiated to make that claim at the time because I didn't know you. I didn't know who you knew. The fact that I said that, like, in retrospect, I'm like, why would I say that? But
it didn't come off, in an arrogant way or anything. It was just, I know how this is meant to look in color. And for me personally, I was like, oh, good, because I don't. All I know is I want like red and kind of pink washes. And you're like, yeah, no, I got it. And you did.
And, I think before I even emailed you to say I was interested, I downloaded some of your art and I started putting colors on it.
Really?
Like, oh yeah, no, because that's how sold I was on the art. That's how cool I thought it was, that I was compelled to put color on it.
Oh, well, that's nice to hear.
So yeah, I mean, and I knew I couldn't, I if it was just me, I probably would have done it for free, but I knew my wife would not let that fly.
No, and she shouldn't.
So, yeah, so I had to discuss it with her a little bit before I even messaged you. But
well, then you have skin in the game, because that's also a thing where, like, I mean, how easy would it would then have been an easier thing where if you needed to, or if you just wanted to step away, there's not, it's not like you have more incentive than just, working.
Yeah.
There's a little something more. And obviously, you're, a key part of the team, and the book gained a new dimension, by having your colors on it. Like, I mean, I remember we you did a few pages just as like a trial run, and I remember finding them the next morning and running downstairs to show. Like I yanked my laptop off my desk and was like running down the stairs. I was like, look what he did, and it was just like the coolest thing that I had seen. I was like, he got it completely, and Pete was thrilled, obviously, but it was just one of these things where I wasn't expecting it, and I wasn't expecting to be sitting here 3 years later even necessarily, just because I had heard so many horror stories about people working in comics reaching out to someone randomly on the internet, or being reached out to by someone randomly on the internet and being, mistreated, or someone stepping away. So it's not that I assumed the worst. I was just preparing for the worst. And it's just been the best thing I could have hoped for,
And to be honest, I think that's why I knew my wife wouldn't go for the idea of me doing it for next to nothing or doing it for free, because there had been a project in the past that I had committed to do, and it was going to be something short. It was like 4 or 5 pages, and I pretty much got fired before I even started.
Oh.
And the guy wasn't very nice either.
That's not nice.
Like, they're incredibly not nice.
That's not cool.
And so it was not a good experience. And I know what basically happened is they got a better offer,
Mm-hmm.
They ended up with somebody that they were looking for. They had like 3 or 4 guys doing like 4 or 5 page backup stories to their main story. And they recruited somebody better than me, which no argument. From what I saw, he was, but just how the whole thing was kind of handled. So like it was a sour taste in the mouth.
Yeah.
And everything you just described, especially for something that was literally supposed to be for free.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I guess it goes both ways, because you have skin in the game because you're obviously you're getting compensated, but I have skin in the game too, because I value your art so much, and it's something that should be, it's like, it sounds funny to say art should be paid for, but it should be, you should be compensated for what you do.
Yeah. And I mean, comics is just one of those markets that
weird time. It's a weird place.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
It's hard. I mean, it's hard. There's a lot of people out there working really hard with $0 in their pocket.
Yeah.
And people work together and nobody gets much of nothing out of it.
Yeah.
And all of those people deserve to be compensated, I think. But
yeah, well, it's also what you command, what you're willing to do, because you asked, and that was the stipulation, and fair enough. It was, is this, are you actually willing to pay for this? And and that's a good question to start with.
Yeah.
So
I want to take a second and just because we got some folks in the chat. We got
all right.
Kayla's in here.
Hey, Kayla. We
got Randy in here. Dale was asking, where do we find this Hercules story?
Oh, it's in one of the it came out on a Wednesdays.
Okay.
Can't remember which one.
Well, that runs it down enough. Should be able to.
Yeah, it was.
We can always look later, Dale, or you can dig into that. GJ is here.
Oh, GJ, how you doing, man?
Yeah, he's the man. Ryan Wynn is here.
Who?
Yeah. I don't have any mods right now, but if I did, I would have them kick that guy out. Yeah. Randy's here. I said Randy was here, right?
Hey, Randy.
David's in and out. He says he's at work. He's gonna have to catch the replay later.
All right.
DDC. So Ryan Wynn says, I hear Nick completes Tyler.
That's true. No, that's absolutely 100%.
It's totally true. Like, I am
everything. Everything you're reading into that is 100% accurate. Yes.
It was a match made in heaven. I am your comic book work wife, whether you know it or not. And yeah, like we just, I mean, I love Red Koi like I created it myself. So
well, you're definitely. I mean, I don't ever want to diminish your role in it. You know, like you do create that atmosphere. Like you create such a cool, spooky atmosphere that, I mean, it brings something to the book that would not be there without your colors.
well, I appreciate you saying that. Early on, I like, to be honest, when I sent you those first samples, I was not happy with them. I was like, I can do better than this.
That's like every day of my life doing art.
I mean, like, you know, you gotta shit or get off the pot. Yeah. So I had to finish them and send them and see what you said. And hey, now we're here. We're here. I got a lot more confident in it, I think, in issue 2. Yeah. Is where I feel like I caught my stride or whatever. But
honestly, the issue 2 cover, it may be my favorite cover that we have.
Yeah.
Although I really love the volume 1 cover as well.
Oh yeah, I love that cover, man. I was so excited that I mean, every time you send me new art, I get super excited about coloring it.
I think you're gonna like what I've got going for issue 6, but it's gonna still be a while before I get anything to you. So
yeah. And that's okay because, yeah, like I say, I'm really trying to get... It seems like people are interested in receiving... So the first arc of Curse of These Bones is going to be like 2 issues.
Awesome.
Worth. Seems like people are interested in getting a first issue. So, yeah, I'm not real far off.
Nice.
From pulling that together and doing that thing.
How many pages do you think it'll be?
The first issue is going to be like 28, like comic story wise. And then I have like an actual like prose story I wrote that'll go in there too with an illustration and some other stuff. So we'll see what all we get in there, but it's going to be about that. So
did you say Dale's curious about the Hercules story?
Dale was, yeah.
Dale, because I'll look that up later and I'll send it out.
Dale A. Yeah, obviously you can check out the chat later too. And
cool.
Although they make it hard to like connect with these people via the chat now, because why would we want to be able to do that? But Dale knows where you are, so if he wants to find you later.
Yeah, at me on Twitter just to remind me, and I'll point you in the right direction.
He said he thinks it's number 9, but it's out of stock.
I have some. I should.
Adam, baby, Adam. Come on.
Yeah, at me. I think I have the verbiage right. I'm probably wrong. I'm usually wrong. Right. But yeah, so that was kind of the beginning, you know, and then we formed our group. You know, obviously I'd been working with Wes since the High Hills of Nemea was done, and you know, Wes, obviously letterer extraordinaire. You know, he's got the, you know, all the moves on that. So just having our little group, you know, and the way the fact that we've been able to do it together for, you know, what will be 5 issues when it's all said and done, you know, or when the next chapter is finished, and, you know, hopefully, you know, for more. Obviously life happens, we hope for the best. You know, it's just been such a treat. You know, doing comics has not been anything like I expected it would be. I don't know what I expected, but it hasn't been like I expected. But after hearing so many horror stories from other people, it's just been, I felt very blessed to be in the place that I am, working with the people that I am.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, but anyway, but that was the beginning, and
yeah,
and we kind of pressed on.
Yeah, no, and I'm always, you know, for the sake of this stream being just a love fest, bro hugs everywhere.
all the time.
But yeah, no, I mean, I told all of my best friends that I'm like, I don't know how I fell into this accidentally, but just totally blessed, really, really lucky.
Well, I like that you have you are very you want to know what I think. You want feedback if I want something to be different. Like you're looking to grow, and not that I can help you be a better colorist. I could just tell you what I'm looking for from this story, and I really appreciate that because I want to have that same option, or to have that same response.
Well, you know what's funny? Like when I'm coloring the book, I don't ever have a script. Like I'm basing everything I do on the visuals, and I like.
So you don't know what it is until you read it.
No.
Oh my gosh.
Which I actually think it adds to it.
Yeah,
like I'm taking all my cues off the visual, and like Can't Kill Kate is the same way. I don't ever have a script for that either.
That's awesome.
I'm just looking at the pictures and like going.
So it is way more art than science.
In a way.
That's very cool.
So, yeah, I mean, I was working on something here recently for somebody, and I had a script, and it was so different.
Really?
Yeah, because I mean, with both you and with Spence, like there's no notes.
Yeah.
Whereas this was
here's
like,
the art. Do that thing that you do.
This is like this character, this is the color of their hair, and this is their, and this is there's a lot of specifics, which makes sense.
Yeah.
But it was totally a new experience for me.
Well, I really appreciated it. So I had gotten, I think it was issue 3. And I had opened the page and I really loved, the first half of the book. It was great, super cool. And then I think, I had gotten to the part where they're at the they're at the dueling platform. And what did I say to you? I was like, it looks kind of beige, and I couldn't think of a better way to say it. And you just wrote back like a just giant LOL. You're like, the worst thing you could ever tell a colorist is his work is beige, but I totally agree with you. Let me see what I can do. And I was like, when I wrote it, I was like, God, I hope I don't come off like a jerk, but this is just literally the best way I can describe it. And then you came back, with such, gorgeous colors and intense colors. And I know you have to walk a line where like you don't want to drown out the line work, and not every page can be like super pumped up and crazy. So I do hope that you'll, push back if you think that I'm asking for something that's, not going to work visually. But I appreciated your response there. It was
you're the least demanding of, so my day job,
mm-hmm.
I have all kinds of customers that come back and want things that are insane and say, silly things. And, it's, when I was younger, I, had a very emotional reaction to
mm-hmm.
that sort of stuff. But now that I grew up some, I've accepted that it's just the job.
Yeah.
But that stuff doesn't really, there isn't anything you've ever said that even remotely
haunts you.
Know. Yeah. No, not at all. So
the chat knows that I'm paying you to say all this, and all the horrible DMs that you've saved of mine are going to come out someday.
Yeah, oh yes, no,
yeah.
Of course. I'm plotting my my exodus.
Perfect.
And I'm going to reveal how horrible you are.
What goes on behind the Red Koi curtain.
And also this Peter Cimetti guy who's in our chat right now.
Oh no, that guy.
Trying to get us to fight. It's gonna be blood, he says. Nasty Nick Welch versus Tiny Tyler Wentland.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's man, what a jerk.
But anyway, that's the intro.
Yeah.
So it was a great show.
25 minutes of intro.
Bye, everybody.
But thanks for coming.
Yeah.
I can't even keep up with this chat right now. It's just great, guys. Thank you so much. Don't forget to.
I don't even see it. Do I have to log in? Is that my problem? Well, you froze. I froze. Did I freeze or did you freeze?
I had a freeze too.
You're still frozen on my end. Now you're blurry and you're back.
Okay.
I just see a blurry beard talking.
Hopefully
there it is.
Finally, okay. Pete says finally some fighting words. I'm not going to say that thing you told me to say, Pete.
Perfect.
People have feelings, man. So yeah, guys, thanks for being in the chat. I cannot keep up with you, but I'm going to keep the conversation rolling with my man, Tyler Wetland. So the one thing I wanted to ask you about, and we're going to nerd out right now, is I've heard you talk, and I'm awestruck by your meticulous research, because I like, you're like talking about like Germanic armor and stuff, and I love all of that stuff, but I mean, you obviously do it from a very academic standpoint, and you seem to know and understand what you studied and where it's from. And whereas I just look at pretty pictures and then emulate them, and then I can't really say where I got it later. So I wanted to ask you, so what kind of research went into Red Koi? What kind of stuff were you looking at? Where did you begin?
Well, you're definitely being over generous with my research, but thank you. I'll take that. So Red Koi was definitely, so the most of the research for Red Koi was definitely relegated to a lot of the underlying mythology of like traditional Japanese tattoo art. I wanted to sort of take the myths that I learned when I was learning about the tattoo work, like the koi fish that swims up their waterfall and it comes down, it transforms into a dragon. I wanted to look at that symbolism and sort of create the story in a way from there. So I knew I didn't want to tell like a historical piece. I didn't want to be responsible for that. But what I did want to do was, look at as much of the awesome, ancient Japanese castles and armor and things like that, and blend that with the mythology, so I could have a fun fantasy adventure where I could have all of that cool, very particular architecture and artwork to draw, but I could have it with monsters. So I mean, I bought. There were actually a couple of books that were on sale at like the used section of the library. They were these like massive books, all with like ancient ancient Japanese castles, but then also like the Japanese woodblock prints and artwork. So, and it's these like two books, like, an inch and a half thick, that were just like a couple dollars each. So I got those, and then I got a couple of books about the way that the samurai would train, how they actually would put on their armor. Obviously, her outfit's very fictionalized in the book, but when she's traveling, she's wearing the standards, kind of tight fitting kimono and basic armor that I have her in. But when I have those battle scenes where you see her memories from like what we call the Long War, which is the great battle that kind of put her entire world in disarray, I want to have her in that traditional armor with the cool mask, with the helmet and all the extra stuff. So for me, a lot of it's looking at old books. So it's not that, I mean, I look at pretty pictures too, and I'm not overly concerned. I don't know if people would be disappointed. They probably already know, but I'm not overly concerned if this is a castle from whatever period and this is armor from, 2 centuries later. If it may sound lame, but if it looks cool, that's my first concern. But I also want the world to be lived in. So for me, when I'm, I don't know, I've got some of the books here, but so when I'm doing a page that has her, like, I don't know, just, you know, in the castle, and she's just walking, I want to have, some of these details, like the paper walls, but then, I wanted to have I think it's called a foo dog, but that's a Chinese statue. But
Yeah.
when she's talking to the servant, she tells her, this is just a trophy from the Western campaign. And that's just me geographically thinking like, okay, well, the Japanese would have to go west if they were going to make war on the Chinese. But it's little things like that I'm not trying to give you a whole history lesson with the book, but I'm kind of using these little threads from our world and our history and bringing them together. And I didn't want to, blend something from Chinese culture and something from Japanese culture carelessly. I'm not trying to blend them into one culture. I know they're different things, but I wanted to have that piece where it's like, if I do want to have a warrior nation based on the ancient Chinese imperial army and dynasty, well, I've got a key to bring that into Red Koi now, and Pete was the one who kind of floated the idea originally to me of having, Red Koi and the Swan King cross paths before, which I had thought a little bit about before, but I never took that idea seriously because for some reason I was like, no, keep them separated. And he was the one that was like, that's cool, man. And when Pete says something's cool, I'm kind of like, okay,
Yeah,
I think that's cool too. Let's do it. And of course he said it. And that night I didn't sleep because I was like having all of these ideas come up. But so these are just kind of ways where it's like I do want to pay tribute to history, to the cultures that they're from. She's very much a samurai in the same way, King Arthur is a knight, vaguely European, England, but not grounded in that way at all.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers the question at all.
Yeah, no, it totally does. And I mean, there's always going to be that one guy,
I'm usually that guy. No, I'm just kidding.
But yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said. I mean, you're trying to pull together enough to make it interesting, but not enough to try and make it seem like you're trying to replicate some time period to the detail.
If people want that, check out what is it, Takehiko Inoue's Vagabond. He's being as truthful as he can to actual life of Miyamoto Musashi, and he's an amazing artist. But yeah, I don't want that responsibility.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. So what's your creative process look like? Because you're the writer, you're the creator, you're the penciler, you're the inker. How does it get from little itty bitty seed to inked page? Do you write outlines? Do you write full scripts? Do you make it up as you go along?
Yeah, for Red Koi, it actually started when I had been trying to I wanted to do a long form story to kind of push myself beyond the short story format. And I was trying to do like a Viking shield maiden story. And it just wasn't working. So I talked about this in other streams, but I had read a book, an autobiography of the daughter of a Yakuza boss her name was Shoko Tendo. And she had gotten this gigantic tattoo of a courtesan from Japanese mythology on her back. And it was all part of her healing process after living a life among these, her father was a gangster and her husband was a gangster. And she's just a mom that had been trying to keep herself clean and really kind of shed her skin and get a new life. And this was part of that. But the tattoo was so cool that I wanted to kind of replicate that. So I did, but it was with a samurai rather than a courtesan, because I had read that there were female samurai as well. And so when I did that, I was like, well, what's her story? Because I had the samurai and then I had a castle in the picture. I was like, what's in there? And so for me, it's always kind of thinking, my stories kind of start with what genre I want. So I think of them in terms of genre and setting. So the first chapter of Red Koi, that's a haunted house creature feature. That's kind of how I thought of it. I wanted to contain it to one place to kind of
Hmm.
give myself a restricted area to work in. But that's what I want to work in. So chapter 2 of Red Koi, I think of it's like a jungle adventure, and then it'll be underground temple adventure. Spoiler alert. But that's always kind of what I'm thinking is like, where do I want her to be exploring and fighting, and how can I make the story happen there? So once I had that, it was then a matter of actually sitting down. When I actually wrote Red Koi, the first script, I overwrote because I had to kind of get into her whole mythology of her world. I had to get into everything that made that castle haunted. What made her, have to deal with the Jorogomo in the first place, and what was her father's role in this, and how does she reconcile that, and why are things so broken in this place to begin with? And it's funny because sometimes I'll be writing, and when I was writing this first issue, and it was, I don't think I'm making this up, but when I was writing, it was just like the line was in my head. It was like, in the last days of the long war before the dragon Ryushin fell, the great and terrible Tiger Lord Shoki Kaigo, to the great and terrible Tiger Lord Shoki Kaigo, I was just like, what the heck is all that? But it was something. And so then I had to figure out what that was. And the hardest part maybe was like, well, I'm not putting all of that in the first chapter, but you get enough of it where I really think the chapter feels lived. It's a world that's lived in. So if anything, like, I'm not the best artist in the world, I'm not the best writer in the world, but I want to have people, if they read something that I wrote and drew, it feels embodied. Mm-hmm. Even if you hate it, you think that, okay, well, this is a living place, So that's kind of how it was. And now the process, once I have that foundation, yes, what I'll have to do is I typically write a full script, and it's a blend of narrative to let me know where she is, and then dialogue. I tend to keep dialogue to a minimum. I did that to a fault in Red Koi issue 2. And Pete messaged me. He's like, dude, there's like 5 lines in this. I was like, oh, he's like, I don't think that's going to work. I was like, okay, let me work on this, and it worked out. It did work out, but I was very much in the show don't tell. And he's like, you could tell a little, you could tell maybe a little more than you got to tell enough. I was like, okay, good note, boss. Thanks. And I can't see him in the chat, so I don't know if he's making fun of me, but,
no, not at the moment.
Okay, good. But so that's kind of how it is. I'll work that out. And then once I have the script done, I'll do my thumbnails, so I'll just kind of run through on whatever little paper just to get in a sense of how my pages are going to fall. But then I have to take my script again, cut out all the narration, figure out what page everything is on. I try to do that in a way where I could just send it to Wes later and it'll make sense to him. And then I'll, kind of put that aside and I'll just draw my pages. And then I'll go through and later on, and I'll hope that my script matches up to my artwork. It's not like a finely tuned science, but it's kind of how things are working at this point.
Yeah. No, and I think it sounds like a good process, to be honest. I think the reason that I can color the comic without a script is because, like you said, writing the script, that second issue writing it had 5 lines of dialogue. Because all the storytelling is in the art, and
yeah,
it almost doesn't. It could be sold without words.
I'm a big fan.
When you add the narration and the dialogue, it's just butter.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
well, that's what I wanted. I always want the dialogue to enhance the art. I don't want it to seem like the writing is competing with it. Just because I don't like that in comics. Like, that's something I love about Hellboy is it's very, Mignola keeps the dialogue relatively brief. I think he writes a lot when he's giving you some really cool mythology, and I love that. because it's embedded in his shadows and things like that, and so it becomes kind of a storybook. But I'm a big fan of Scott Morse, and Scott Morse is a Pixar cartoonist by day, and he's been doing comics for years, and he was always one that said, you should be able to tell what's happening even if the words are taken away. So I do try to take that seriously. I try to accomplish that. And I try to think about how the dialogue's actually serving the characters to make them interesting.
So, I mean, that brings us over to, first off, from the chat, Ryan Wynn was complaining that our content and our seriousness is so good that he can't find anything to make fun of. So,
well, he can take his handsome face and just enjoy it. How's that for a comeback?
He said, I hate this. I hate that this is actually interesting. Nothing to rip on. But
we'll get there. Don't worry. We'll get there.
I mean, this is what happens, though, because like I said up front, we haven't ever done this. I mean, we've been working together 3 years or something, and this is our first real sit down. And it's funny because I feel like I know so much about Red Koi, and I almost have zero reason to think that, because we haven't talked about what you're doing or where you're going. Or
I know, and it's not like I think either of us are against it. It's just life's busy. It'd be great if we could do this over a couple of beers somewhere, but
yeah,
the internet's cool too.
I think that, sooner or later here,
we'll make
that happen. Just going to be, maybe there'll be a show or something somewhere.
Nice. Oh, God, here we go.
Ryan, he says, Tyler says interesting stuff. Nick,
Damn it, he figured us out. We have to come up with a new thing.
Son of a gun. Kayla thinks the Swan King has a cool design.
Thank you, Kayla. That was actually what I need to do at some point is, I don't know, if we ever are able to release like a deluxe edition of the Swan King or do something cool with issue 6 crossover with Red Koi. The original Swan King was kickstarted, and the kickstarted edition was obviously, it's a more robust book, but in the back it has a sketchbook. So that shows you some evolution of the Swan, like how many times I had to design, the crown, or what I wanted the castle to look like, what I wanted the water nymph to, how I wanted her to be sitting when he first came up to see her, the design of the devil's goat face and stuff. So for people that like that back matter stuff, we should find a way to get that out there again.
Definitely. So naturally conversation has kind of swung to characters. I think you create a lot of really interesting characters. Where do you get your ideas for characters? Do they come to your mind fully formed, or obviously you just said that you work stuff out visually, but
yeah, so with Red Koi, it was definitely doing the painting and seeing the character not fully formed, but to just see a female samurai overlooking this haunted castle. Me just thinking, well, it'd be a really cool movie if it's just about the samurai and she's in this haunted castle and fights a monster. Like, that's literally as far as it went. And then I had to figure out a design that I liked. And Eiko's design has kind of evolved a little bit. She starts off very ceremonial, and then she kind of tries to strip away all of the ceremony by the end, and then the rest of the story is going to be about her kind of reclaiming that, and I mean, like, the overall story is going to be about, she's fragmented right now. She starts the story in a place of fragmentation, and it gets even worse by the end, and then the rest of this is going to be about her kind of moving back towards that unifying space. So for her, that was kind of where it went. With the Swan King, I get a lot of inspiration from classic Disney movies. I'm not going to lie. And I didn't realize how much inspiration I got from classic Disney movies until I was drawing these things. And I was like, where's some of this coming from? So the Swan King is sort of like a mix of the Sleeping Beauty, Beauty and the Beast, ancient fairy tales. I wanted a character who could live in that space, because I love that I have like my samurai, Japanese fantasy kind of high fantasy character, but I wanted my, knight European fantasy character, just so I could play in both East and West. I have characters for other parts of the world as well, just so I'll geographically kind of cover every cool warrior culture that I, have read about for years. But so for him, I wanted that. So it was just kind of looking at some of those old character designs. There was a lot of angles on the face of the Beast in Beauty and the Beast when he becomes a man again, but he has a very distinct looking face, and I thought that was cool, like the nose and the chin. I wanted him to kind of be otherworldly. Obviously, he's got the blank eyes, so he's just kind of a strange character. He's not an elf, but he's different. But I also didn't want him to be like almost like too what?
No, it took a couple minutes. As soon as you went into the you draw a lot of inspiration from Disney. I've been waiting for Ryan Wynn's comment.
Oh yeah, no, it's gonna be good. It's gonna.
But no, he said Gods and Gears equals Aladdin plus Little Mermaid.
That's awesome. That's the selling point, man.
Yeah.
But I didn't.
The log line. I don't know.
It really should have been.
Is
Pete, get it
on
in
the
there.
Alterna website, but we got to get that changed.
Yeah, we do.
Right.
But I had drawn the Swan King, and and there was something to me that I thought was cool about I don't know, for some reason the Swan King popped into my head. I thought the animal itself had obviously it's a very beautiful bird. It's got a cool aesthetic with the black and the white color, but I didn't want him to be like too angelic or too perfect looking. So that's I just marked him with that big scar. And that's actually something that I lifted from a character from the book that I've mentioned in a few interviews, where it's I drew 59 pages of a graphic novel, and I never have shown anybody except for a few buddies back in the day because it's so bad. But I had a character that was kind of like this with that cool scar, but I kind of wanted to lift that. So he's a character that, he's obviously a little otherworldly, but he's grounded in the sense that, he's been marked by this world. And so when I was doing that story, it was kind of a chance to. So first of all, Red Koi was going through the submission process. And ever since I had gotten my first story published, I didn't want to let a year go by without having something published. And so that was going to happen if I didn't have something to work on, because Red Koi was done. I didn't know if I was going to do more. I was just basically waiting for the release date. And so, I was like, oh, I'll try a Kickstarter this time. It didn't get to happen with Red Koi. I could do it with this. And, so I just kind of did that. And it was a chance to blend. I was able to blend a lot of things. I was able to blend mythology, ecology. There's some theological elements to it, philosophical things. There was a lot that I could pack into 19 pages and not to, I'm not trying to necessarily send a message in my comics. I think I'm going for a feeling more than anything. I want you to feel embedded in the world. Mm-hmm. And if I've accomplished that, that's what I care about more than anything. I don't want you to have to think the way I do. But I do want you to, feel like you're, I'm not going to sing a part of this world and give Ryan the satisfaction of the Little Mermaid song, but part of this world. No, don't. You didn't see. You did it, and now it's all over. So, good night, everybody. Ow.
So, yeah, and so the chat's really echoing what you were just saying there, and what you have to say.
How do I see it?
About the world feeling very lived in, and having this a weight to it, it feels real, or it doesn't feel real, but you can feel it.
Well, awesome. I'm not lying then to myself.
Yeah, no, and I have to say that's probably what drew me in from the get-go to be interested in coloring it, is that it had had a quality to it that I'm still trying to get into my work. Where
Well, let me ask you a question, because it seems like you're also an artist that appreciates backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
Like the pages that you've done for Curse of These Bones, they're very cool. But like you'll throw really cool like architecture and all kinds of little things into your pages first they make them interesting. And I think that making a page, which is just to say they look cool, and making your page cooler is always a good thing. But I think that's the thing that helps someone feel grounded in the story, because you picture yourself in that room with all those books on the table and that ancient manuscript, and there's a wine stain on the table over here. But I mean, have you always had that appreciation for those little things, or are you just finding that something that you need to do? Because I know a lot of artists hate background.
No, I mean, I always liked, I always liked the element of it. And much to Ryan Wynn's disappointment, I'm actually going to go back to Disney. And for instance,
Mostly about Disney.
Movies like Sleeping Beauty, where they have these painted backgrounds.
Ivan Durrell.
That are just, they're not just gorgeous, like they have this character to them.
They're stylized. Like those square trees and
and that's the stuff I really dig. Like, I mean, I like drawing organic stuff. Like, I like drawing trees.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I like,
mm-hmm.
I'm probably not gonna draw that much modern urban stuff, but if I do, it'll be like in one of those really complicated, like, back alleys with crazy signs and stuff hanging in it in like China.
Did I ever show you my story, The Chase Down?
I don't think so.
It was in the Alterna Crime anthology, but I think that it's also in one of the it came out on a Wednesdays. But it's an 8-page story of some Irish gangsters getting into it with some triads who end up bringing in a biker gang. And it's 8 pages of just this chase through the city. And yes, there's signs everywhere and, stuff hanging. But I was thinking of like those old, like those Hong Kong alleyways with like the air conditioners and the tubes and the, smoke lifting up and stuff. But yeah, like that. But that's what I wanted to do, because I'm kind of the same way. I'm like, I don't know how much urban architecture that I'm gonna be interested in drawing. I'll draw like an ancient city, I'm sure, at some point. But like, I was also like, I don't know. I had something in me. I wanted to draw muscle cars and pistols and cool guys in leather jackets. So that was my chance to do that.
Yeah,
but that's out there somewhere.
Yeah. So no, I'm very I just like that. The storytelling in the background. I mean, you can tell when people don't want to draw the background.
Yeah,
because it looks like they didn't want to draw it.
Yeah,
and I think there's, I mean, we've talked about them before, like Magnola's stuff. I mean, there's I don't know. There's just so much stuff that I've been really into. All of a sudden, discovered Alex Nino, the Filipino artist. He did through the 70s and 80s. He did like Conan and like creepy stuff.
I'll look him up.
And I just like, he did this one book.
Oh, geez.
And I mean, he really kind of fits that whole like Mobius, Juliet.
Yeah. Oh,
stuff.
wow.
But like, this book is like watercolor, but his inks are amazing.
Dude, that'd be something I'd find in the back bins at my shop and just immediately be like, well, I don't know what it is, but clearly I need this.
Yeah, like I'm on the internet scouring for it. Like, I just bought another book today by him that it's like stupid. Like his, I mean, just this stuff.
Oh man, and that is you too, that cosmic.
Yes.
crazy.
I never, for most of my life, I didn't know I wanted and needed this until I really started trying to make my own comics, and I realized like this is what I want to make.
You discover what you want to draw. Dude, I didn't know I wanted to do like fantasy comics. If you asked me as a kid, I'd be like, no, I want to do superheroes. You know? And then as an adult, like I don't know if it's because I also have a lot of love for history and mythology. And to me, mythology is always about, you know, you have the sword or you have the war hammer or something like that. You know, it's not, you know, it's not the futuristic stuff, which is very cool. But every time I seem to sit down to want to draw a new story, you know, it's a character with a sword or a spear or something.
Yeah.
You know?
So, I mean, and this is the other stuff most people are familiar with. If you're not familiar with Juliet, then I don't know what hole you live in, but, you know.
What is this?
This is Philip Juliet. He's one of the originators of metal hurling out of France with Mobius. Oh my
good.
You always hear about Mobius, but man, like I just love this stuff.
Juliet, what's that book called?
This is, and there's a few of them. This is the 6 Voyages of Lone Sloan. It's got some like a handful of short stories in it, but just this stuff like this.
That is absurd. It reminds me of, do you know who I think it's Olivier Ledroit or Oliver Ledroit?
Huh, sounds familiar, but
he's done a lot of stuff with Pat Mills. He did like Requiem, Vampire Night, a lot of weird European comic stuff, but like crazy detail, crazy painting, just absurdly talented. Like, I mean, he's one of these. I assume he's French. I could be wrong, but he's one of these artists where it's like the Europeans, like they take a year to do one album, and you can tell why when you see his artwork, just because he's got these double page spreads that are just these wide scale views down on like the cities of hell, and there's all of them have like these terrifyingly detailed like cathedral walls and stuff, and demons flying everywhere, and you can look at the stuff and you're like, all right, well, I've been humbled again for today. Time to go back to drawing.
So I mean, I've become really inspired by that sort of stuff, and I mean, I'm working. I mean, pretty much these guys, all of their stuff is like a double page spread kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. No shame in that.
That's where I'm at. Like where the I mean, you've seen some of my stuff, but
yes, stuff's been coming out great.
Actually, some people were asking about stuff here a few minutes ago.
Yeah,
I might give you all a sneak preview. Never before seen. Let me bring something up here. A couple of things. Which page is it right here? But yeah, so what would you say, while I'm loading some things up here, what would you say is your, what's the thing you've done you're most proud of? And whether it's a whole thing or whether it's one image or.
It's a hard question. I feel like I don't, maybe this is a fault, but I really don't take enough time to like reflect. Like, I don't know, doing comics has always been at the time when I first started in my life, for me, making a comic I thought was going to be like the greatest thing that I could ever do. Like, it was going to make everything in my life kind of like magically cohere and fall into place. And it was very cool to get, you know, that first anthology with my short story, and I was proud of it. But I immediately looked at it and started being like, I could do this better. I could do that better. I could do that. You know, it was cool, but I had started to fall in love with the process more than the product. And that's been something that's followed me. So like, even I thought, okay, well, maybe, when I get that first issue and I'm going to hold the issue in my hand and I'll be able to read that. And maybe that's when everything will fall in and all, life will kind of all magically cohere around that. And I was like, this is cool. This is very cool. I can do better than that, or, well, I got to get back to work on the next one. And so, and that's kind of freeing in a way, because it's just like, I love making the art, and I love that I can see that it's improving literally from issue to issue. So like I was watching a review of Red Koi that Alex from Infinity did, the other day, and he had some really really good criticism of it that I completely agreed with. And for me, there was almost a sense of peace in that, knowing that, well, that's great, because that's something that I agreed with too, and that's something that I've been working on in the last couple of issues. And hopefully he'll see that as he moves through into the next chapter. So it's just a love of the process and a love of continuing. One thing that I will say that I did appreciate, I loved the Swan King. I love the process of making that book all in black and white, of designing the book. I didn't letter it. Wes lettered it, obviously, thank goodness. But, kickstarting it, getting it out to people, it was a really cool process. I love the story, just kind of as this weird little fairy tale. I love that I get to draw the character again, and we get to explore more of his world and kind of expand on some of the things that I alluded to in the story. I love that he has new life. But the fact that there, I love one shots. The fact there's this $1 one shot out there that someone can take a look at and just get to live in this world for a bit, and you get to see all these fantasy creatures. You understand that this is another world that's been marked by war, and it's this guy's fault, and he bears that burden, but he's trying to make amends, but he's trying to do so without any thanks. It was a lot of cool things that came together. So yeah, I guess after rambling all that, maybe I'll say the Swan King,
So GJ just asked, I don't remember, but I'll ask, will the Swan King have his own ongoing issues?
No, he'll have so if you want to see what the second issue of the Swan King will be, wait for Red Koi issue 6. They're going to cross paths, and most of that issue, and I think it'll end up being another 3-issue chapter. At least the first issue 6 and 7 are going to be most of the Swan King and what set him on what I call the Carrion Road to cross paths with Red Koi. And so if you're looking for, Swan King issue 2, it'll technically be Red Koi issue 6. You're going to get the whole story there of him, kind of what brought him out of the castle, and, what put him, on paths with her. So hope that works.
Yeah. And it's funny, I just it was really at one point while we were talking here tonight that I realized that, let's see, what issue 3's out there, but the people haven't even seen issue 4 and 5 yet.
Yeah.
And that's super exciting, because you
really
guys have no idea.
Yeah.
There's awesome stuff coming. You have no idea.
Cool. It's going to be cool.
So, it's going to be great.
I think it's cool, and I'm glad you think it's cool. Like that's important to me. But it sounds so stuck up, but I will read my own comics and I'll be like, this is pretty cool, I obviously I'm very critical of myself, and so I always see art that I want to fix. But at the same time, I'm like, I would read this just because it's what I like. It's adventure and
as we've gone over, I don't necessarily have a script when I color it. So, I don't see the final product until I get the issue in my hand.
Yeah.
And I'm cool with that, because reading that 3rd issue was, I posted about it on Twitter. It it was a really exciting experience. Like, I mean, forget that I had anything to do with it. To read it was it was just fun. Like, I mean,
Well, I
it
appreciate that.
made me feel like a kid again in a way that comics haven't done in years.
Yeah,
So
they should be fun, ideally, even if it's, you know, you're reading a hard story or a sad story, something like that. I think, yeah, eliciting a feeling is important. Like, I mean, so like I've always loved the superhero stuff when I was a kid, but I remember Craig Thompson's Blankets was a big story for me because that captured that like teen angst kind of thing. But that was still something that drew me in, but he's also an amazing artist. Oh, geez, what is that? That is very cool.
so this is
Oh, Phoenix.
a double page spread
Dude.
of this is like a dark wizard. This is like
Mhm.
kind of in the middle of you know, of them having an altercation, the main character and a dark evil character that he hasn't ever experienced before.
How do you chart this out though? Do you just like do a big swirly and you're just like, okay, this is what the basic shape that I want the page to follow?
Well, and so for me, my writing process, like I have a general idea of like the scenes and what's happening, and I write dialogue. But then I just I just start drawing stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and then like I literally move it around and pull the compositions together on the digital page until things start happening the way I want.
That's cool, man.
So then here's another page that's not done yet, something I'm working on.
Oh my goodness.
But you can obviously see the inspiration of
Yes.
Juliet and Nino in this.
Every one of these looks like a poster, which I love.
So yeah, what happens is you have the main character kind of goes on this Doctor Strange, out of body adventure, and at first he's kind of witnessing the early moments of this dark wizard and how he comes to possess this powerful magical key. But then the problem is, in the vision, once the wizard obtains the key, he becomes so powerful that he's aware of the fact that the main character is viewing his past via a vision, and so pulls him deeper into this otherworldly dimension and confronts him.
Whoa. It's never good when that happens.
Yeah. So it's some psychedelic stuff. It's funny. I mean, if you asked me 6 years ago what I wanted to draw, I would have said 100 bullets. And this is so not that.
It's not that, but it's very cool, man.
But
very cool.
Yeah, I just gravitated to these double page spreads that with these compositions that the panels kind of naturally fold into. And I had these ideas for these little eyeballs with little thingies.
Yeah, they're creeping me out, but it's in a good way.
They're gonna kind of talk a little bit.
So my brother-in-law is an animator in New York, and he's always been a big Henson fan. He's worked on Henson projects and stuff like that. He can build puppets, he can do everything. But he was always he bought my daughters an ABC book of The Labyrinth, the Henson movie, The Labyrinth.
Nice.
And so that's all my daughter knows of it. And so she was like, I want to watch the movie. And I've never seen it. And my wife's like, I don't know if she should watch this, but she insisted. And so we're like, all right, we'll give you a chance. But so we got through half of it. But we did get to the part where these mossy eyes just kind of start looking up, and I was like, "Oh, that is a creepy effect. She's not going to sleep tonight." But
nice.
Yeah, it's pretty. It was pretty cool. I mean, I'd love to finish the movie at some point, but
yeah. I was working. I had drawn these kind of little these little eyeball growy fungus things, and then recently I got the idea that they should be like little hecklers almost, or like disgust, like just like
Yes.
these little,
Yeah.
and really that kind of came to me a little bit from reading some Sandman stuff, specifically
Mm-hmm.
the Sandman Overture that Gaiman and J.H. Williams III did. I mean, he's another big influence of the stuff I'm working on now, is his work on the Sandman stuff. And
I think my buddy gave me did he work on Batwoman?
yes.
Yeah, I think I read that because I remember every page was wild. I couldn't follow it, but every page was wild.
Yeah. And part of that was at one point he started writing it too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was the problem.
Maybe.
Like, I don't know. Like, people are going to attack me on the internet. I don't know. But I'm not sure what, his I don't know how good his writing chops were. So when he combined that with his art, I say this as I'm writing a drawing my own book and being critical of a guy who's friggin' amazing. So
you're not being
let's
hard.
move on. Let's see here.
You have a list?
I did keep
this. Is a natural conversation.
It
Looks
was
at
really
notes
natural, and then obviously
and smile at camera.
I mean, really, we're at wrap up, I think, at this point. Although we can probably talk 4 hours.
We could. We should do this again. Does anybody in the chat have questions or anything?
Yeah, I should pop back that. See what people have to say about that stuff. Yeah, guys, if you have any questions, now is the time. Oh, and Gerald, yeah, I saw you said this. You talked about Hanna-Barbera tunes, and you mentioned Alex Toth.
Wow.
Yeah, buddy. Alex Toth,
goodness.
man. I mean, this guy just...
Jeez.
Yeah.
How come my black and white art doesn't look like that?
Nobody's does, buddy. Yeah. We can all dream.
He says with a sad face.
Hey, the fact we get to try.
Yes. No, you're right. The fact that it's a never-ending journey. Like, that sounds like, I know it sounds so cheesy, but it is really satisfying. You're like, oh, it's never going to be as perfect as I see in my mind, but I can keep trying to, like, push my way up that hill,
Yeah. Ryan said that he was trying to recreate a Wizard of Oz with gods and gears.
That's awesome, dude.
Which I can see that when he says it.
Yes, when he says it, yes. Yeah. Which is I like, because it's vaguely familiar, but I don't know why. But now that brings it home a little bit.
Yeah. So you're bringing Swan King into the Red Koi universe.
Yes.
The next arc.
Yes.
I mean, what else? Is there other things? What are you shooting for? Where are you looking to take Red Koi? Looking to take the character? What's burning in your mind?
I mean, so there's, and this kind of gets to GJ's question before about a different series. Like, I am producing as much as I can while, working full time with the family and stuff, and trying to keep myself as healthy as possible.
Yeah.
Because I could sacrifice more sleep, or sacrifice other things, and it just tends not to be good. So I found a decent place of balance. And so I'm producing what I can. And so that means that all my energy is going into Red Koi. But the fact that I get to have the two my two favorite characters that I've ever created, and I've created a lot, I just haven't shared them with anybody.
Yeah.
But they're my two favorites that I ever created. I can do anything that I want with them. The fact that I can have them together in a book, I mean, it's exactly what I want to be. And like, you know, like working full time and doing comics, it's not exactly how I thought things would be like when I was a kid. But
Sure.
to be completely honest, I wouldn't trade it for anybody's position in comics.
Yeah.
Like, I love working on what I'm working on. I love working with Alterna. I love working with you and Wes. So it's just I'm very happy to be doing what I'm doing. My goals with Red Koi, I know how it's going to end. You know, I pray that I, you know, get to see it to fruition, you know, and finish the book. You know, obviously, you know, we take life one day at a time, and if I'm, you know, lucky enough to do that, I think that'll be pretty cool. So right now that's kind of it. I mean, I continue to read a lot, you know. The book continues to be, you know, informed. Like, there's always something cooking in the back of my mind for the future. You know, I'm always reading more about, you know, history. I'm reading more comics. I'm reading a lot of things. So I hope the world will continue to grow and people will enjoy where it goes. Hopefully the art continues to improve. But that's the thing. I love the process so much. And I love like designing a page and trying something new, or just seeing what you can do with black ink, you know?
Yeah.
So I would just, you know, like to continue with the book and growing the audience.
Yeah,
Really.
definitely.
I think Gerald told me that he got extra copies of Red Koi and he shared them like with coworkers and stuff. And that was the nicest thing that I could think of. But I was so happy that he felt that it was something that he wanted to show people. You know, that means a lot. That
Yeah.
he wants to invite other people into this little world that we're all, you know, enjoying together.
I get a buddy. I think he said he bought like 20 or 25 copies of the first two issues, and he's hoarding them in his basement.
Well, thank you.
I don't know. I don't know what he's saving them for. Hopefully,
Rainy day, I guess.
someday. I mean, someday they might be worth
Someday.
real money,
Who knows, man?
because you know it's not a huge distribution right now, and someday
I know.
people are going to find out. I think it's, you know, I believe that. I think sooner or later, you know, I think there's pockets of indie comics right now that are churning, and I think, yeah, I think everything's going to crash and burn, and people are going to all of a sudden be like, wait, what's this thing over here?
Everything's going to catch on fire.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
they're going to find you. Perfect. Great.
No, I
it's
think
cool,
it's going
man.
to keep, I think it's just going to keep building. So,
Yeah, I mean, the book's going to continue to be what it's been. You know, I'm not tired of the characters at all. I'm excited every time I get to sit down and draw them. You know, every morning that I get to, you know, sit on my desk and churn out a page or chip away at a little bit of a page, depending on what the day brings, you know, is just a real joy. So,
yeah. I wanted to echo too what you said about you were talking about how this isn't how you envisioned it necessarily, you know, working 40-hour work week plus doing this on the side, but I'm the same sort of way. I've got the day job and stuff, and I don't think if Marvel showed up on my doorstep tomorrow morning and was like, come color as many X-Men books as you can do in a month, I'd be like, nah, I'm good.
isn't it weird to say that, but actually like believe yourself?
It's really weird, but I just, I'm like, nah,
Like little Nick and little Tyler would be like, "Are you kidding me? X-Men?" Like, nah, buddy, it's not.
Yeah.
Just do your own thing.
Yep. I'm like, I'd rather color Red Koi.
Yeah. It's like I get to play in this world, and it's exactly what I like. So
it's good that you have the ending in your mind already.
yes.
You just got to finish it before I have my premature heart attack at the age of 65. So
Please don't do that.
So I can get it colored.
Please don't do that.
I don't want the final issue dedicated to me.
I hope not. I hope not. I hope we can cheers over the final issue with a delicious beverage and
yes,
kick our feet up.
Yes. All
We'll
right,
see.
buddy.
All right.
Well, Geronimo Draws popped in here.
Oh, that so-and-so. He's always causing trouble.
Everybody I want to thank everybody that showed up to the chat tonight. I'm really,
Seriously, guys, thank you very much.
I'm acting flattered that you showed up to my chat. I know you showed up for Tyler.
Oh, they showed up for both of us.
But this was a great combo.
We can do it again. There's more to talk about.
I'm gonna do more of these, but we should do these once in a while. Maybe you and I should interview somebody else.
Sure.
That'd be
we know a couple of guys.
A couple of guys, yeah. I'd love to pick their brains.
Sure.
Dig deep. So, all right, boys and girls, thanks so much for dropping in. We will see you on the Twitter feeds.
Bye, everybody.
Peace.
Thanks very much.